Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful borough of the Bronx. We are so happy today that we are here at the wonderful Ostos Community College. We want to thank Dr. Gomez and all of the faculty members here at Ostos. Let's give them a strong round of applause. This is truly a historic day. Before I go into my comments, I want to make some acknowledgments of those that are joining us here on the dais. These are a wonderful group of individuals who help us and help with the governor and the state and the Senate to get to where we are today for this wonderful signing of these pieces of legislation. We have with us the first speaker from the Boogie Down Bronx in the New York State Assembly, my good friend, Speaker Carl Hastie. We have the sponsor of the bill, State Senator Michael Vendito. We have Assembly Member Ron Kim. We have the Secretary of State, Cesar Perales. Now we have a number of leaders here, so I'm going to try to rattle this off so that we can hurry up with the program. We have the President of the New York State FLO-CIO, President Mario Cilento. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an historic moment about protecting the rights of workers, making sure that we move forward with this industry. And someone you're going to hear from a little later on is with us here today. She's a nail salon worker. Miss Papitra Dash is with us here today. We have with us President of the New York City Central Labor Council, Vinny Alvarez. We have the President of the RWDSU, Stuart Applebaum. We have Secretary Treasurer of Workers United, SEIU, Edgar Romney. We have the Secretary Treasurer of 32BJ, Kyle Bragg. We have Earl Phillips, Secretary and Treasurer of TWU, Local 100. President of PSC CUNY, Barbara Bowen. We have Julie Kelly, Manager of Workers United. The Political Director of 1199, Kevin Finnegan, is with us here today. The Political Director of the Metallic Lathers, Local 46, John Skinner, my good friend. Alfonso David, Counsel to the Governor. We have Elizabeth De Leon, Deputy Secretary of Labor. We have the Acting Commissioner of the New York State Department of Labor, Mario Mussolino. We have the New York State Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, Jerry Boone, and Robert Bellington, the Chairman of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Let's give them all a strong round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, as many of you know, this conversation we started a number of, actually a couple of years ago, here in the Bronx, making sure that when you look at the cosmetology industry, when you look at the nail salons, spas, barbershops, beauty salons, we wanted to make sure that we address this industry because it continues to grow here in the city and in the state of New York. We know that there's so many individuals who are employed. We know that there's a huge diversity in the workers and in the customer base. And so to have the governor, once again, someone who I consider a personal friend, to have someone who's been a friend to the Bronx, who's been a friend to the city of New York, act on this with the Speaker and with the Senate to ensure that as we move forward, that we protect this industry, to make sure that as we move forward that we protect the customers, but we also that we protect the workers and make sure that no one is exploited. That we consider this a health issue as we proceed. And so once again, every single time we see our governor act, every single time we see him protecting, whether it's on rent regulations, whether it's the tenants here, whether it's workers in different industries. And so here he is today, and for me it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience as the borough president, a president of a borough that continues to flourish, that continues to grow. And I just wanted to bring up the Secretary of State to explain a little bit more about this wonderful historic day here in the Bronx and for the city and the state of New York. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Secretary of State, el señor César Perales.
Muchas gracias, Rubén. Muchas gracias. It is always a pleasure to be in the Bronx and to see the esteemed borough president. It's especially meaningful to be here at Eugenio Maria de Hostos Community College. Now, this is a place that takes working class people who still believe in the American dream and makes it happen. I don't know how many of you remember that there was a poor woman from Puerto Rico that came here with her 2 children, managed to make the little boy a physician and the little girl one of the most powerful women in our country, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. This is the place that made that happen. And so it's appropriate that the governor decided he'd sign legislation, as the borough president pointed out, that would protect the rights of the people who come to this country today from all over the world. People, many of whom are still learning the language when they come here. And so we've worked very, very hard. A number of state agencies, we've worked on regulations, and today we're going to sign legislation that is going to make this state the state that best protects nail salon workers. Now, having worked so hard on it, I and others thought we'd get a phone call from the governor telling us congratulations. That's not the phone call I received a few days ago. He said, you guys did a pretty good job taking care of salon workers, but there are many more workers out there that continue to be exploited in many other industries. We've got to do something about that. So the governor will, of course, sign legislation that is so important a little later today, but he's also announcing today a multi-agency statewide task force that's going to combat worker exploitation and abuse across New York State. The task force is going to pinpoint industries where workers are least likely to come forward and where businesses show the least amount of compliance. It will initially focus on issues that were discovered through worker complaints. To name just some of these targeted industries: car washes, supermarkets, janitorial services, hospitality, restaurants, and construction, including day laborers, and health aides, retail, and farming. And if we identify other industries, let them know we're coming. The task force is composed of 10 state agencies with more than 700 investigators at their disposal. The investigators represent New York with self-identified languages represented, including Bengali, Mandarin, Russian, Spanish, Gujarati, Hindi. Also, language access services of every language will be available. The state agencies will be coordinating an outreach, education, resource, data collection and analysis, investigations, prosecution, monitoring, and compliance with the laws and regulations in New York State. The task force will also include an advisory committee of labor and business leaders, advocacy organizations, and academics that will be tasked with informing the education and enforcement work, but also it's going to provide recommendations to the administration for the kinds of statutory, regulatory, and administrative reform that we need to address worker exploitation and abuse all over our state. This advisory committee will meet. If necessary, they'll hold hearings, solicit information from the public, and develop recommendations for the governor to review and implement. The first set of recommendations will be due in December for consideration for the next legislative session. This first-of-a-kind task force is the result of a dedicated and passionate governor who is committed to protecting the rights of every New Yorker. Governor Cuomo has and continues to fight for all New Yorkers, and for that we are grateful and honored to have him serve in this role. It sends a message loud and clear of this governor's priorities. And I know, because I heard them loud and clear on the telephone, it was a rather passionate voice that said, we're only just beginning. So before we hear from the governor, however, I want to hear from a few speakers, starting with one of the most prominent partners in our fight to protect all workers. Please help me welcome New York State AFL-CIO President Mario Cilento.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you very much. Let me just start by saying, first and foremost, I want to thank Governor Cuomo. Governor, you have again showed us. Let's hear it for Governor Cuomo. You have again showed us what true leadership is all about. Leadership is about actions and deeds, and they always trump just words. And the governor, he was made aware of a situation, particularly in the nail salon industry. He was made aware of it. He set forth a strategy. He implemented that strategy, and here we are today. We are here today to say enough is enough, no more. We will no longer tolerate, as a state, exploitation of workers in the nail salon industry. We will no longer tolerate it because the governor says we will no longer tolerate it. But more important than that, what we are doing today sets a precedent, and it sends a very strong message that when you stand up for one worker, you stand up for all workers. And we are saying today, collectively, whether it's elected officials, whether it's labor leaders, whether it's members of the community, but most importantly, whether it's average, everyday working New Yorkers, as a state, we will completely and fully hold all employees responsible to make sure that there is dignity in all work, that there is respect in every workplace, and that justice will be served. That's what we're saying, collectively, moving forward. And as someone who, I think this is really important, and I appreciate the fact that we're here in the Bronx today, and I think Borough President Diaz has mentioned it, and certainly Carl Heastie, our speaker. Not just because I was born and raised in the Bronx, and not because I went to school here and I lived here the first 30 years of my life, but it is really very appropriate that we are in the Bronx, I believe, this morning. Because the Bronx is the cradle of diversity. We are proud of our diversity. We are diverse in many different ways, whether it's cultural or ethnic. We're also diverse economically, and really so much more so than we have in the past. And again, that's a real tribute to Ruben Diaz and all he's done here these last few years. But even myself, growing up here in the 70s and 80s, we're a very economically diverse borough. And what that means is we have working men and women who go to work every single day in different industries, in different sectors, in all kinds of job titles. And it really epitomizes what we mean when we say all workers have and share a common bond. No matter who you are or where you're from. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You can be doing very well making $200,000 a year. You could be making $20,000 a year. When you go to work in the morning, you share a bond with everyone else. And it's a bond that says regardless of who you are or where you're from, regardless of what sector or job title you have, regardless of whether you were born in this country or not, regardless of whether your parents were born in this country or not, regardless of the fact of anything that comes into play in your life, we all share the same needs and the same concerns and the same wants. And we all share the same values and the same principles and the same ideals. And those principles and ideals are basically this. We all want to be able to go to work every morning, get up, support ourselves and our families. We all want to be part of the economic engine that runs this city and runs this state and runs this country. And we all want to be productive members of society. And what we are saying today, that's all we want. And what we're saying today is that when all of us stand together like this and join and fight and raise our voices together, that we will provide all working men and women in this state with the opportunity to achieve those goals. And in the order to achieve those goals, if in fact you do, then you can achieve the American dream. You know, people think the American dream is about buying a new house or buying a new car. It's not. Those are residual effects of the American dream. The American dream in this country historically has been that we want the next generation to do a little bit better than the generation before it. We want the next generation to be a little bit more financially secure than the generation before it. And we want the next generation to have a brighter future than the generation before it. And what we're saying here today is this. We are saying that when we join together like this, we have the opportunity to provide each and every successive generation with the opportunity to achieve that American dream, as long as there's no exploitation in our workforce and you are able to support yourselves and your families. So, again, Governor, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for leading the way, showing true leadership, showing what true leadership really is. I want to thank all of the labor leaders here today for steadfastly supporting and fighting for the rights of all working men and women. And I want to thank all of you because together, collectively, we are the reason why we will no longer tolerate exploitation in the workforce. And together, we have the opportunity to provide that American dream to our children and generations to come. Thank you very much. So you can never really get away with anything. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you Assemblyman Kim.
Good morning. It's always good to be back in the Bronx. You know, I grew up in Flushing. I represent Flushing, but I went to school in the Bronx, so it always feels good to be back here. The past few months have been transformative for all workers in the nail salon industry. Together, we helped to address the terrible conditions that thousands of New Yorkers are exposed to, and we made meaningful strides to put an end to those practices. With leadership from our friend and partner, Governor Andrew Cuomo, we took swift action. I want to personally thank Governor Cuomo for stepping up to bring immediate improvements in the nail salon industry that provides tens of thousands of jobs to female immigrant workers that generates billions of dollars for the state of New York. The governor has been at the center of bringing legislators from all across the state to help working families, immigrant communities, and small business owners. He has shown great leadership in inspiring the most diverse state in the nation to work toward common goals. I look forward to working closely with him and his team and continuing to support and empower all vulnerable members of our communities. I also want to take a moment to thank Speaker Carl Hastie for allowing me to champion this legislation in the Assembly, and of course, all my colleagues in the Assembly for supporting this piece of bill. We didn't have one negative vote in the Assembly as well as in the Senate, and I want to thank all the members for allowing that to happen. We wouldn't be here today without the efforts by the workers' advocacy groups. Here with us today are a number of organizations, including Luna Ranjit, Charlene, Rachel Spector, Grace Shim, Beverly Neufeld, Chris Klee, Shao Chi, and many more advocate groups are here. With you, our fight marches on. We owe you much gratitude. I also want to thank especially the nail salon owners and the good operators who have worked hard with us throughout the last several months. We've had some meaningful and historic meetings between the small business owners, advocates, and community leaders, and I hope we can continue to work together toward long-term solutions to improve this industry. The common thread that brings all of us together is ensuring the promise of New York, which is one of opportunity, where all employees, regardless of their background, are protected under the law. To guarantee this, we need to give a voice to those who can't stand up for themselves. Together with Governor Cuomo, we are this voice. Governor, thank you again for taking a lead on this critical issue. I'm committed to continuing our work together. Next, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming a champion of small businesses and middle-class families, State Senator Michael Vendito from Long Island.
Assemblyman Kim, thank you so much. What a great crowd today. You have been applauding for so many different people, but you're the reason we're here today, folks. How about a hand for yourselves? Let's hear it. I'd like to thank Ostos College for hosting this historic event. I want to thank, of course, Governor Cuomo, Speaker Heastie, and Assemblyman Kim, who are, of course, part of the driving force of making this law come to life and this event happen here today. I have the privilege of joining you today as the Senate sponsor of the law, and I'm also representing our great leader of the state Senate, Senator John Flanagan, who sends his regards. We're joined as well by three of my colleagues in the state Senate. We have Senator Gustavo Rivera. Welcome. Senator Jose Serrano. Hello, Jose. And Senator Brad Hoylman is here as well. It truly is a historic day in every sense of the word. For far too long, we have been hearing about hazardous situations in salons across New York State. Workers have not been getting the labor protections that they are rightfully entitled to, and I thank our labor leaders for joining us today to be a part of this great ceremony. And workers have not been receiving the training that they are entitled to, and this should be required of them. Well, through this law, they will be getting those labor protections. They will be getting that training. We are taking a major step toward curing many ills that have been out there for far too long. And in turn, yeah, you can hear for that. And in turn, our residents, the consumers, those who frequent the nail salons, they, of course, will be receiving a great advantage as a result of the law, because we're talking about chemicals, sometimes volatile chemicals. We're talking about the public health, safety, and welfare. We're talking about the future of New York State, a future that we need to secure together, and we are going to secure together through efforts like this one right here. So I look forward to, I look forward to the bill being signed into law, as I know each and every one of you are doing the same, and it gives me a great honor to introduce somebody who has been a great friend to the state Senate, and in the first few months of his tenure, just doing a fantastic job presiding over the State Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Carl Heastie.
Before I begin my remarks, I just want to acknowledge the Assembly members who are here who partnered with us and Assemblyman Ron Kim on this legislation. We have Assemblyman Michael Benedetto, Assemblyman Michael Blake, Assemblymember Marcus Crespo, Assemblywoman LaToya Joyner, Assemblyman Guillermo Linares, Assemblyman Nick Perry, Assemblyman Phil Ramos, Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal, and Assemblymember Aravella Samotis. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're writing a new chapter in worker safety here in New York. As the former chair of the Assembly Labor Committee, I know that this is just one of many industries where workers face occupational hazards. The Assembly majority has a long history of defending the rights of workers in every industry, and we have fought for meaningful laws to protect their well-being. In 2010, I was proud to be the author of the Wage Theft Prevention Act and lead the fight across the state to give workers a voice. I'm proud today we take that victory a step further and empower these hardworking individuals with the support, the oversight, and the knowledge they need to go to work each day in a safe environment and be paid for fair wages for the labor that they provide. Thank you. With these new reforms, workers and consumers can rest assured that the highest standards are in place to protect public safety. Like countless others across the state, these small businesses are the backbone of our communities. Today's legislation acknowledges how important it is that we do everything in our power to support their compliance with these measures and ensure that the operations are conducted in the safest manner possible. I would like to acknowledge the hard work of the agencies and individuals who have shown model leadership and responsibility over the last few months. Because of your efforts, public awareness engagement will be an important part of making this campaign successful. New York has a reputation for putting our families first and our workers first. This new law continues that legacy and ensures that these hardworking individuals are afforded the same protections and benefits that we strive to provide for every worker in our state. So thanks again to the exemplary commitment of Assemblymember Ron Kim, the sponsor of the legislation, Governor Cuomo's leadership, and the support of our colleagues in the Senate and Assembly, the lives of thousands of New Yorkers will be safer and healthier. So now it gives me the pleasure and the honor to introduce someone who's been a great partner for me in the 5 years that I've been Speaker, or 5 months that I've been Speaker. It feels like 5 years. In the 5 months that I've been speaking, it was great that he wanted to do it here in the Bronx. You know, for me, as I now have to, I guess, represent the entire state. But as I always say, I feel like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home to be in the Bronx. So, with no further ado, I'd like you to give a warm welcome for a man who showed true leadership in tackling this issue, our wonderful Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yay, Hostos Community College. Let's give a big round of applause to Hostos Community College. Thank you for having us here today. It's an honor to be here. First, to Speaker Carl Hastie, he was technically correct. It's been 5 months, but if you add the number of hours that we have worked in 5 months in compliance with the wage and hour laws, it actually comes out to 5 years. Speaker Hastie stepped into a very difficult situation. We had all sorts of disruption and turmoil in the legislature this year, and his conference turned to him at a very difficult time, and they said, "You are the person that we have trust and confidence, can steer the ship through these very troubled waters," and they were right, and he did a masterful job in bringing home a great record of accomplishment for the people of New York. Let's give him a round of applause, Speaker Carl Hastie. Borough President Ruben Diaz, I love being with Borough President Ruben Diaz. He's got all that energy, all that leadership, all that good looks. Of course he's doing a good job. He's got everything going for him. And on top of everything else, I don't know if you've noticed, he is a highly fashionable gentleman. Stand up so we can see that shirt and tie comment. Look, please stand up. Look how beautiful. Tell the truth. Let's give him a round of applause for his fashion sense. Secretary of State Cesar Perales, who has forgotten more about government and policy than I'll ever know. He was in the federal government, the city government, the state government. He was a pioneer in fighting for people who were left behind. Secretary of State Cesar Perales. Mario Salento, head of the AFL-CIO. We have a broad representation of our brothers and sisters in the labor movement today. Remember what the labor movement has done for this state and this country. It has protected workers, and it has brought workers into the middle class. That would not have happened without the labor movement. Assemblyman Ron Kim, thank you for your leadership. He's one of the young, bright stars in the Assembly, and he's taken a tough issue, and he's done a great job. Thank you, Assemblyman Ron Kim. Senator Michael Venditto, you know, we have issues that are, well, first, we have a Democratic Assembly and we have a Republican Senate. To get a bill passed, you have to make a marriage between those two bodies. Sometimes it takes a shotgun to make that marriage. I know, because I bring the shotgun. But on this issue, There was no difference, Assembly, Senate, Democrat, Republican. This was about what's right, and this is what was about fair. Senator Venditto stood up. He showed leadership on the Senate. It was virtually unanimous. Let's give him a round of applause. To Pabrita Dash, who's with us today, who represents the nail salon workers. Thank you for being with us, Pabrita. And to all the groups that work with workers and people in protecting their rights, they really are doing the Lord's work. Let's give them a round of applause. This is a very exciting day for me. We've signed a lot of bills, but this is special. And what we're doing is special, because this really goes to the essence of New York and one of the core issues of New York. Because New York, in many ways, this country, offers a promise and poses a peril. The promise is that our gates are open and our arms are open and our hearts are open, and we welcome immigrants to this city and this state. That is the promise. It's the Statue of Liberty in the harbor, saying, come one, come all, we invite you. It was the foundation of this state, a foundation of this nation. It was the American experiment in democracy. That's the promise. And you look around this room, you look around this borough, this city, this state, that's the promise. All different ethnicities from all over the globe, all welcome and forging one community, each bringing their own individual strength. What a beautiful, beautiful promise. No other country on the globe has made that. That's the good news. The peril, the fear, the danger is those immigrants, when they come, tend to be the groups with the least amount of power in society. They don't come with money. They don't come with a language. Sometimes they don't come with official authorization of the federal government. So they are in a position where they can be exploited. And that is the danger. And that is not new, my friends. It's now happening to a new group. It's happening to the new immigrants who are here now. But this has happened for years. I remember my grandfather, my mother's father, God rest his soul, Charles Raffa, came 15, 16 years old as a laborer. And he used to tell the same story all his life. He came as a laborer, and he got a job in the construction field, and the contractor put him in the back of the dump truck in the winter on the way to the job. And my grandfather was so poor he couldn't afford a jacket. And he was freezing in the back of the dump truck. And the owner of the company was driving the truck alone in the cab. And there was more room in the cab, and still he had my grandfather in the back of the truck. And my grandfather would say he was afraid he was going to freeze to death, 16 years old. And he would say in Italian, non come un cane, I wouldn't treat a dog that way, is what he would say. And a tear would come to his eye. Not that he was recalling the pain of the cold, because he was recalling the indignity of being treated that way, that he wasn't even being treated as a human being, that you wouldn't treat an animal that way. It was so gratuitous. You had room inside the truck. Why didn't you let him sit inside the truck? Because he wasn't even treated as a person. That's the peril of America. And that was 60 years ago. And it's still happening. I'm Attorney General. I remember the story my father told. You can see it all through society. If you want to see it, you see it. So I said, as Attorney General, we're going to start a series of investigations to uncover this exploitation of workers. And we went to our investigation staff, and we identified people who could pose as undocumented workers. And we got 3 or 4, and we sent them out. Some of them got detected, some of them couldn't pull it off, but one guy, Ecuadorian investigator, pulled it off, got hired as an undocumented worker in a fancy Manhattan restaurant and was going to work in the kitchen. And they hired him, and he worked about a week, and he came in, and he quit. And I said, what happened? He said, they're paying me less than the minimum wage. They're making me work basically around the clock. They won't tell me if I ever have a day off. I'm working 7 days a week. And they tell me if I try to take a vacation day, they're going to fire me. And he said, I physically can't work that hard. I just can't do the job of a dishwasher. I said, you're a state investigator. Suck it up for a week and do the dishes. He said, I can't. I said, all right, quit that job, go find another job. He quit that job, he went and found another job. Same thing. He literally couldn't do the work in terms of hours and stress that were required. I called in the head of investigations. I said, go hire some other people who can actually do the job. He said, I can't. Nobody will do these jobs and these hours and this stress because physically they can't do it. And the only people who will do it are people who have no options, who are the undocumented workers. That's the peril. That's the exploitation of workers. Now, even if you are an undocumented worker, you still are entitled to the protections of the laws of the state of New York in terms of wage and hours. In the eyes of the state, an undocumented worker is a worker, just like a legal documented worker, and hours and overtime, the same laws apply. And what we're saying today, the issue was brought to our attention with the nail salon workers, and we focused on the nail salon workers. We're going to sign a bill for the nail salon workers, but it's not just nail salon workers. If you want to open your eyes and you want to be honest, it's everywhere in this economy. Go talk to a landscaping company. Go look at a car wash. Go look at a laundry service. Go look at who comes in your home as a cleaning lady. Go talk to the nannies. It is everywhere in society. Walk onto any construction site and see what's going on. And it's not about documented, undocumented. It's about fair wages and fair pay and fair hours. So what we're saying today is we're going to sign the nail salon bill. But simultaneously, the Secretary of State is talking about, the Commissioner of Labor is here. We're going to form a joint task force. We have 700 investigators in the state of New York who are going to be investigating these violations with all these businesses all across the state of New York. Because we have the least powerful workers in the state who are being exploited and who are being cheated. And they're getting paid the least amount, they have the fewest resources, and they're the ones who are actually getting cheated the most. Not in the state of New York. And what we're saying today is, this is so widespread. In some ways, we've all looked the other way. In some ways, it's gone on for so long, people just don't even see it anymore. And apathy is a problem. We're going to have our 700 investigators, and they're going to make sure people know the law. And they're going to make sure people pay the fine if they break the law and the workers get their money back. But it's going to take all of us. That's why I'm so happy that our brothers and sisters in the labor movement are here, and that Mario Salento and the AFL-CIO is here, and 1199 is here, and 32BJ is here, and TWU is here, and RWDSU is here. It's going to take the labor movement working with us. When you see workers who are being exploited, you let us know. It is also going to take the consumer. Ask the question. Ask the question. Ask the landscaper the question. Are you paying your workers pursuant to the wage and hour laws of the state of New York? Are you paying minimum wage? Are you paying overtime? Are you giving them vacation time? Consumers are part of this. We have a great new Pope, Pope Francis, God bless him, who says income inequality, the transactions a consumer has are not just economic transactions. There's also a moral component to those transactions. If you're giving that contractor your money, if you're giving that nail salon owner your money, you're giving that cleaning company your money, you have an obligation to ask them, are they treating their workers fairly, with dignity, and within the bounds of the law? We have a 1-800 number, 1-888-469-7365. If you know of a worker who is being exploited, call us, call that number. You can call anonymously, and the state investigators will have the leads to follow up. It is that simple. And you know, in some ways, there's no place better in this country to do this than New York. Because in New York, this is who we are. And you have all these other states that are nervous about immigration, and they want to build walls and build fences, and they want to close the gates because they're afraid outsiders may come in. We're all outsiders in New York. We are all immigrants in New York. We welcome immigrants. We're not afraid of immigration. We celebrate immigration. And we love that we come from different places and have different cuisines and different accents and different cultures. And we believe when you put us all together, we're actually the stronger for it. And if there's a state that is going to stand up and say, we celebrate immigration and we demand you respect the human dignity of workers and immigrants and enforce the law, it's New York. And it's not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's a New York issue. It's who we are. It's what we believe. And it's what we're going to enforce. And we're going to do it in this state. And then we're going to say to the rest of the nation, this is how you treat immigrants. And this is how you welcome immigrants into New York and this nation. And our success is built on what we've done together, and together we're going to make this a reality. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, let's give the governor another strong round of applause. Governor, we thank you for protecting workers' rights. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we've all been waiting for, Mr. Governor, would you please come and sign the bill into law? Once again, we want to thank Ostos Community College and Dr. Gomez for hosting us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us here in the Bronx for this historic occasion. And let's give another strong round of applause to Governor Andrew Cuomo for his leadership and Speaker Carl Hastie.